When I was still a young man before Sherlock Holmes became famous, I once spent a summer visiting my old college friend, Victor Trevor, at his family home in the quiet countryside of Norfolk. Victor and I had met at the university, and he always said that no one had ever surprised him as much as his roommate who could read people like an open book. His father, Mr. Trevor, had invited me to visit, and I found their home warm and cheerful, surrounded by gardens and meadows full of sunlight. Mr. Trevor was a kind and pleasant gentleman, tall and silver-haired, but there was something in his eyes that seemed troubled, as if he carried a secret worry deep inside. Still, he smiled often, and we spent many comfortable evenings together, until one small remark changed everything. One afternoon we were sitting on the porch when I noticed a faded blue tattoo on Mr. Trevor's forearm. "You must have been in the Navy once, sir," I said. The effect was shocking. Mr. Trevor's face went white, and he staggered to his feet, clutching his chair. For a moment I thought he was going to faint. Victor jumped up, crying, "Father, what's the matter?" The old man tried to laugh it off, saying it was nothing, but his hands trembled as he left the room. From that moment, the easy mood in the house disappeared. Mr. Trevor became nervous and distracted. He stared out the windows as if expecting bad news. Victor told me in a low voice that his father had always been a little strange when anyone mentioned the past, but lately it seemed worse than ever. A few days later, a letter arrived for Mr. Trevor. I saw his fingers shake as he opened it, and after reading it he sat quite still, staring at the fire. Then he rose suddenly, and went out into the garden without a word. That night he looked years older. Not long after that, another strange thing happened. A sailor appeared at the door, rough-looking and sunburned, with a hard red face. His name, he said, was Hudson, and he claimed to have known Mr. Trevor long ago. I thought the old gentleman would deny it, but instead he turned pale again and said quickly, Yes, I remember you. Come in." To my surprise, he offered Hudson work around the property as a gardener's helper. The man accepted with a grin that made me uneasy. From that day forward, Hudson was a plague on the household. He was rude, lazy, and often drunk. He bullied the servants, helped himself to food and drink, and spoke to Mr. Trevor as if they were equals. Yet the old man never scolded him or sent him away. I could see that Hudson frightened him. Once I walked into the parlor and found Hudson sitting comfortably in Mr. Trevor's own chair, his muddy boots stretched toward the fire, while the master of the house stood nearby, pale and silent. It was as if the world had turned upside down. When I left for London soon after, I worried about my friend and his father. Weeks passed before a letter came from Victor. His handwriting was hurried and uneven. "For heaven's sake, come down at once. This man Hudson has nearly driven my father mad." I took the next train to Norfolk. When I arrived, Victor met me at the gate. His face was drawn with worry. "It's over now," he said. "Hudson is gone. But I fear it's too late." He told me what had happened. Hudson had grown bolder, demanding money and threatening to tell some secret about the past. Finally, Mr. Trevor had shouted, "Leave my house, and may I never see your face again." The sailor had left, shaking his fist. For a few days, the household breathed freely again. Then another letter came. This one from abroad. Mr. Trevor read it in his study. Moments later, the servants heard a crash. They ran in to find him collapsed on the floor. The letter was still clenched in his hand. He never regained consciousness. After the funeral, Victor showed me a sealed envelope his father had left for him with a note. To be opened in the event of my death. Inside was a long handwritten confession. We sat together by the fire as Victor read it aloud, his voice trembling. "My dear son," the letter began. "If you are reading this, the truth I have hidden for so many years can no longer harm anyone but myself. You have known me as Harold Trevor, country gentleman, but that is not my real name. I was once James Armitage, a London clerk who fell into bad company and committed a great crime. For forgery, I was sentenced to transportation for life. I was put aboard the convict ship Gloria, bound for Australia, with 70 prisoners and a small crew of soldiers and sailors to guard us. Among the prisoners was a strong, daring man named Evans, later known to you as Beddoes. He was brave, though reckless, and we became friends. Not long after we sailed, whispers ran through the prison deck. The convicts meant to seize the ship and escape. The ringleader, believe it or not, was the ship's own chaplain, a false clergyman who was in truth the most dangerous villain of them all. One dark night the mutiny broke out. The guards were overpowered, the officers murdered, and the prisoners poured onto the deck. I was forced to join them or die. Amid the struggle, the false chaplain took command. The ship was ours, but at a dreadful cost. Then came the final horror. While searching for liquor, one of the convicts broke open the powder chest with a hammer. A single spark set off an explosion that tore the Gloria apart. I remember the blinding flash, the roar and the screams. When I came to, I was in the sea, clinging to a piece of wreckage beside Evans. We were rescued hours later by a passing ship. To the captain, we gave false names and said we were sailors from a whaler that had gone down. When we reached shore, Evans and I swore to bury the past forever. We separated. He went abroad, I came back to England, changed my name to Trevor, and began anew. I worked honestly, married your dear mother, and believed my sin was left behind on the ocean floor. Years later, I thought myself safe. But fate is cruel. By chance that boy Hudson, a cabin hand on the Gloria found me again. He knew who I was. At first he asked for small favors, money, a place to stay. Then he demanded more. I feared that if I refused, he would ruin us all. I endured it as long as I could. Then he wrote to Beddoes, the only other survivor who knew the truth. And when Beddoes answered, I knew the secret of the Gloria had risen again from the deep. The letter ended there, signed simply, James Armitage. Victor put it down with a long sigh. The mystery that had haunted his father's life was now laid bare. What became of Hudson? I asked. He disappeared the night my father died, Victor said. Some say they found a sailor's body washed ashore near King's Lynn, but I don't know if it was him. We sat silent for a time, thinking of the strange chain of events that had begun with a simple tattoo. Then Victor handed me the letter that had caused his father's fatal shock. It was short, written in a bold foreign hand. The stick is at fault. At first it seemed meaningless. But Victor explained that his father had once told him of a secret code he and Beddoes used aboard ship. The stick is at fault meant the powder is discovered. In other words, the secret is out. The message had come from Beddoes himself, warning that Hudson had turned against them. Realizing that his whole past was about to be exposed, the old man's heart had failed him. Afterward, Beddoes vanished completely. Some believed he fled the country, others thought he took his own life. Hudson was never seen again. For Victor, the truth was painful but freeing. He no longer had to wonder what shadow had darkened his father's eyes all those years. And for me, it was the first time I saw how deeply the past could hide behind a quiet face, and how Sherlock Holmes's sharp eyes and curious questions could bring that past to light, even when he did not mean to.